Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for dropping by VOA and talk about the ICC case.
My pleasure.
You filed the communication later last year, somewhere in October. Can you update us on the status of this case? Where is it up to right now?
Yeah, it was filed on the 7th of October with the Office of the Prosecutor, and they have acknowledged receipt. They said they're looking into the issue, and it will probably take them some time to go through all the evidence to make their initial decision about whether they want to open a preliminary examination.
So how soon will we know the results if they kind of open this preliminary investigation or not?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there is no definite answer to that. There's no deadline for them, but we hope that they will make the initial decision this year or early next year. And there's two stages. Initially, they will decide whether or not they open a preliminary examination. And then the second stage is a full formal investigation, and that may take more time.
So tell us again, how many people you represent in this case that you filed to the ICC?
Well, I filed on behalf of 10 individual victims who gave me a power of attorney to file. So those are the filing victims, but I also file in relation to all the victims of the crimes that are included in the communication.
What are those crimes?
Well, the backbone of this filing is the crimes associated with the land grabbing, and that includes the forcible transfer of population, the murders, the illegal imprisonment, the persecution, and the other inhumane acts that have been committed. That's the backbone of the argument. But there's also the other side, which is the crimes committed in furtherance of the ruling elite's objective of maintaining power at all costs. And those are connected to the land grabbing crimes, but those ones would include crimes, for example, the assassination of trade union leaders, the shooting of peaceful demonstrators, the illegal imprisonment of activists, and the persecution of other people who challenge the power of the ruling elite.
So all these start from which year, 2002 up until now? Or?
Yeah, the jurisdiction of the ICC started in July 2002. So we can't include crimes before that date, apart from to give context.
Legal experts have argued unless kind of domestic or national mechanism is exhausted, that you can kind of go to international mechanism like the ICC. So has all this been used in Cambodia?
Well, what we have to show is that the national courts are not willing or able to deal with these cases themselves. And that's very clear that in Cambodia, the courts are subjugated and manipulated by those in power. And it's the ruling elite who committed these crimes, so there's absolutely no way that there can be justice for the victims in Cambodia.
Can you tell us what action have you been doing since filing the case in October 7th?
Yeah, well, what's important is to show the ICC prosecutor that the international community and the Cambodian victims are not willing to see Cambodian people sacrificed to the forces of power and greed. And so what we've done is that we've spoken to a lot of civil society actors as well as politicians to ask them to support this initiative, and we've gained a lot of support so far from FIDH, from Global Witness, from the political group Liberal International, and 40 NGOs who deal with land grabbing around the world have sent a letter to the ICC prosecutor urging her to take action on this case.
Can you tell us whether this kind of support that you've just mentioned about kind of add up to the agency or the burden that the ICC should look into this case in the past?
Yeah, what you have to realize is that the ICC has limited resources and it has a lot of issues around the world to deal with. So what we want to do is we want to convince the ICC prosecutor that she should prioritize this case and the ICC take into account the views of civil society and the international community. So it's important for us to garner support from those actors to show the ICC prosecutor that this is a case that people really care about.
So do you have any people in mind for filing this case who you want to target? Do you also try to target Prime Minister Hun Sen?
No, we do not name Prime Minister Hun Sen as a target. We have laid out a system that's controlled by the ruling elite. And it's that system that effectively implements the policies and commits the crimes. The ruling elite is much broader than just Hun Sen. It includes senior members of the government, it includes senior members of the military, police, gendarmes, and it includes the government-connected business leaders. So we have laid out the system, and it's for the ICC to follow the evidence and to see who in particular they want to indict.
But doesn't Prime Minister Hun Sen, who is actually in charge of the government, kind of this policy actually from his administration, right?
It certainly looks as though this is a government-inspired policy. The ICC have to be very careful in finding evidence, in looking into that, and seeing how far up this goes, and they may find evidence that this goes right to the top, or they may find that the crimes are planned and committed by people at a slightly lower level, like the head of the gendarmes. We heard reported today that Sao Sarkar, the head of the military police, has admitted that he's inspired by Hitler. So that shows the type of people that this government have put in power.
So yeah, talking about that, you went to Cambodia to collect all the evidence before filing to this court. How big or how good cooperation that the authority provided to you?
Well, I wrote to several people in the administration and it was, I didn't receive a response. I wasn't surprised by that. But publicly they responded that they would not cooperate. That shouldn't surprise anyone. But in any event, I had hundreds of reports to use that had been issued by human rights organizations, both international and Cambodian, as well as the UN office and UN special rapporteurs. So I had plenty of evidence from which to draw.
Did you also do double check, because some of my audience raised some question that are they really victims, or they are in kind of government land encroacher, they encroach on the government land?
Well, that's a complicated legal question, but most people have a legal right to reside where they are, and if they're going to be removed, then there needs to be a legal process. There needs to be compensation, there needs to be a hearing, there needs to be legal aid so that they can put their arguments before a court. And if that doesn't happen, then it's an illegal forced eviction, whether or not they have land title.
So case like this, can you tell us the history of the ICC? Case like this, how many cases like this that led to investigation and prosecution of those involved in the past?
Well, the ICC is a new court. It's only 12 years old and it's only opened 9 full investigations. It's only convicted 2 people. So there's not a huge number of cases to compare. But certainly in the Kenya situation, there was a charge of forcible transfer of population. So they've already decided that that is most definitely a charge that they're willing to look at within the ICC. And forcible transfer of population is listed explicitly in the ICC statute.
So how much hope do your the people whom you represent kind of expect to get out from this communication or from this case?
Well, I think we have to be realistic. The ICC has a lot of issues to deal with. There's a lot of bloody wars around the world. So it has to choose carefully. So it's not guaranteed that it will choose this case because of simply just a lack of resources. But we're pretty hopeful that we will get to that first stage within the next year. They will open a preliminary examination and then we will see whether they want to take it further.
Yeah, in Cambodia, Prime Minister Hun Sen has just celebrated his 30 years in power. So meaning that he led a government from a government that is very less recognized to, you know, big recognition globally. So how can the ICC bring those in power to prosecute it under their jurisdiction?
Well, nobody is exempt from indictment by the ICC so long as it has jurisdiction over that country. It does have jurisdiction over Cambodia because Cambodia signed the Rome Statute. So actually it doesn't matter what position people have. Several heads of state have been indicted by the ICC before. We have al-Bashir in Sudan, we had Gaddafi from Libya. So there are several examples that show that the ICC will simply follow the evidence and wherever that evidence leads, they will indict that person.
One important question that people have asked each other and been raised during a lot of the debate in Cambodia, that you kind of work for the opposition in Cambodia. So are these victims actually the opposition supporter, or they are two separate cases?
Yeah, I do not work for the opposition. This was filed on behalf of 10 individual victims who provided me with a power of attorney, a written power of attorney. None of those victims work for the opposition, and the funding to do the investigation came from the diaspora in the United States. It did not come from party funding. So it's a distraction by the government that this is a politicized process. In fact, this is about victims, and what the government should be more bothered about is why there are 770,000 people adversely affected by land grabs.
So this means that you're not going to back down no matter what political solution or settlement is in Cambodia?
It's not a matter of backing down because the ICC now has the information. I don't think that I can withdraw this case formally under the ICC process.
Okay. You're now in Washington, D.C., been touring a lot of states in the U.S. Can you tell us what's your purpose in doing all these things in the U.S. right now?
Well, there's two purposes. Firstly is to have community meetings with the Cambodian diaspora to inform them what's happening, to give them more details about the case, because there's a lot of hope on this case amongst Cambodians. And the second reason is to meet with lawmakers in DC and with NGOs in DC to inform them about the process and to see if we can get some support for bringing justice to the victims.
Did you get some support? Any support?
Absolutely, absolutely. The several congressmen have been very supportive of this initiative, and we're hopeful that there'll be a congressional hearing where I will speak to the issues that I raise in this complaint.
You mentioned earlier about a general in Cambodia who mentioned that he learned things from Hitler. So such a common or this kind of person that the government put in place in charge of security. So how can this kind of comment help your case at the ICC?
Well, I think it just makes it obvious the type of people that are in control of the gendarmes or the military in Cambodia. In any other country in the world, if somebody in charge of security said that they're inspired by Hitler, they would be fired. But we're pretty sure that this person won't be fired in Cambodia. And it just goes to show how ruthless the gendarmes were. And it was the gendarmes that opened fire on the demonstrators on January the 3rd.
I know you already answered my question on things that ICC has a lot of cases to choose, but why they have to kind of take seriously the case from Cambodia at this stage? Because as you mentioned earlier, case in Africa, which is very hot there right now.
Well, they should deal with this case, I believe, because the number of victims is so high. NGOs in Cambodia estimate that 770,000 people have been adversely affected by the land grabbing. That's 6% of Cambodia's population. In Phnom Penh alone, 145,000 people have been evicted. So the number of victims is massive, and it's far higher than many of the other cases in the ICC. I'll give you one example: Ukraine, where there were shootings in Kiev of peaceful demonstrators. The death toll was 118 people, and the ICC opened a preliminary examination. So we have a huge number of victims, and those people cannot get justice in Cambodia, and there's a real risk that if nothing is done, the number of victims will keep piling up.
So as the case starts to unfold right now, starting from the very beginning until now, you see more light at the end of the tunnel than before, or still?
Yes, I think I'm more hopeful now than when I filed, because of the amount of support that we've had from the international community, whether it's NGOs, whether it's national politicians. So I think all that will give the prosecutor the momentum to move forward with this case and prioritize over others. I should clarify, it's not guaranteed that anybody will be indicted soon. The ICC has limited resources, so we must be realistic, but I think we can also be hopeful.
You are fighting against those who are now in power, and those who already, you already mentioned, made a comment about Hitler and operating in a Hitler style. So have you ever received any threat, or are you also concerned about your safety?
No, I haven't received a threat, and I'm not concerned about my safety. I think that it would be very obvious if anything happened to me who was responsible, and I don't think that the government wants that type of attention and the types of investigation that would obviously follow.
You still want to go back to Cambodia?
I would love to go back to Cambodia. It's a country that I enjoyed very much for 5 years of my life, and I have every intention of going back.
So where's your next step seeking international support after the US?
Well, already we have been told that the European Parliament will raise this issue on the 22nd of January. That's a very positive move. We're going to work with national politicians in several European countries to see if they can raise this issue. And of course we hope that there will be a congressional hearing by the Asia Pacific Subcommittee to deal with this issue. So we have plenty of work ahead.
Congressional hearing at the US Congress, right?
Yes, in the subcommittee of the Foreign Affairs Committee, yeah.
You've talked a lot about international support, going around seeking, drumming up for support. What about Cambodian people? What can they do to kind of give more value to this case?
Well, I think it's important if the ICC prosecutor sees that Cambodian people are behind this. We know that the government are going to be against it, but we need to show the people are behind it. And so we plan to put together a petition signed by Cambodians both in Cambodia and the diaspora outside Cambodia. So if Cambodian people want to help push this forward, they can sign on to that petition.
How soon this petition will come out?
Probably within the next few weeks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roger, for talking to VOA.
Thank you very much.